Welcome back. Today we dive into one of the most important global debates of our time, the US-China showdown. This is not just about politics or economics, it's about two superpowers shaping the future of our world. From rising geopolitical tensions to fierce trade wars and ideological clashes, we'll break it all down for you. Stay tuned because by the end of this video, you'll understand not only what's happening, but also why it matters to all of us. Part 1. The New Cold War? Unpacking the US-China strategic conflict point. Introduction. The current landscape. Welcome to our channel where we analyze the world's most critical events. For more deep dives like this, be sure to subscribe. The relationship between the US and China is no longer just a rivalry. It has become a profound strategic confrontation. This shift began in the early 2010s, as China, under the leadership of President Xi Jinping, started taking a more assertive and independent stance on the global stage. Today, the U.S. views this relationship through the lens of strategic competition, responding to direct challenges that China poses to U.S. interests, security, and values. According to the U.S. Department of State, these challenges include China's unfair trade practices, cyber activities, human rights violations, and its growing interference in international organizations. Geopolitical tensions, Taiwan and the ASEAN, South China Sea, perhaps the most volatile and concerning aspect of the U.S.-China relationship, is the military and geopolitical dynamic. The issue of Taiwan, escalating tensions in the South China Sea, and a growing military power race in the Indo-Pacific have brought the two powers to the brink of conflict on several occasions. A key framework influencing U.S. Department of Defense. Planning in this context is the Davidson window. This theory, put forth in 2021 by retiring U.S. Indo-Pacific Command Admiral Phil Davidson, suggests that China could take military action against Taiwan by 2027. This thinking has created a sense of urgency for American policymakers. The two most recent U.S. administrations have had different approaches to Taiwan. During former President Donald Trump's first term, his policy was based on a strong, almost antagonistic military presence in the Pacific. Yet his stance on Taiwan was circumspect, even more so than the U.S.'s long-standing policy of strategic ambiguity about Taiwan. In contrast, the Biden administration has taken a more explicit and assertive stance on defending Taiwan, positioning the U.S. as a more decisive party in countering Chinese military activities in the region, increasing military spending, and making firm commitments to its allies, which has further escalated tensions with China. In the Taiwan Strait, the frequency of aerial and maritime incursions by China's People's Liberation Army, PLA, and China Coast Guard, CCG, has increased significantly, creating a new normal. In August 2025, PLA aerial incursions into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, ADIZ, were recorded at 322, marking the seventh consecutive month this number exceeded 300. This is more than double the monthly average from before the election of Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te in 2024. Similarly, in the seas, CCG incursions into Kinmen's restricted waters have increased, with 85 incursions recorded since February 2024, compared to the usual 3 to 4 per month. In September 2025, there were also secret meetings between U.S. and Taiwanese defense officials, apparently to reassure Taiwan of U.S. support. Similarly, the South China Sea remains a critical flashpoint, with both nations at odds over their claims. China is continuously trying to block Filipino vessels from bringing supplies to the Second Thomas Shoal. The Philippine Defense Secretary has called these Chinese actions a gross violation of international law. The U.S. has repeatedly stated its obligation to abide by the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty to defend Filipino forces in the South China Sea, which clarifies the American role in the region. A significant new development in this context is that both countries are developing unmanned maritime systems, which could not only be used for mine countermeasures and anti-submarine warfare, but also change the dynamics of war as they can fight, without risking human lives. A deeper look, the hidden strategy. The Chinese aerial and maritime incursions are not just about asserting regional claims, they have a deeper, hidden purpose of cognitive warfare. The continuous, repeated incursions are designed to dull Taiwan's threat awareness and response. This is a deliberate tactic to make the Taiwanese military and Coast Guard's reaction to this increasing aggression less sensitive, thereby normalizing it. This is a rehearsal for a potential surprise attack or blockade in a real conflict scenario. It is a part of an undeclared war meant to exhaust and weaken the opponent before a full-scale conflict. The U.S. has a dual strategy that is also noteworthy. The secret meetings between U.S. and Taiwanese defense officials in September 2025 show that the U.S. is trying to maintain a delicate balance between supporting Taiwan and not angering China. Although the Biden administration has expressed a more explicit commitment to Taiwan, the The secret defense meetings during the Trump administration show that Washington wants to reassure Taiwan without antagonizing Beijing. This indicates that both nations prefer to manage their differences through dialogue rather than conflict, especially during a U.S. presidential transition. The U.S. military presence in the region can be seen in the following locations, which highlights its strategic importance. In Japan, 62% of U.S. Air Force personnel are stationed at military bases, airfields, and ship aircraft repair facilities. In South Korea, over 50% of the U.S. Army and Air Force personnel are located at bases, including the largest overseas base, Camp Humphreys. In the Philippines, military and naval personnel provide support for the U.S. Navy. In Hawaii, over 40% of personnel are located at bases like Fort Shafter, Schofield Barracks, and Tripler Army Medical Center. In Guam, U.S. Air Force and Marine Corps personnel are stationed at Air and Marine Corps bases. Part 2, the economic battleground, tariffs, tech, and the fight for dominance. The trade war. A brief history. The economic conflict between the U.S. and China began in January 2018, when then-President Donald Trump started imposing tariffs and other trade barriers on Chinese products, citing China's unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. The key actions and timeline are as follows. January 2018, Trump announced 20% to 50% tariffs on solar panels and washing machines. March 2018, the U.S. imposed tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum. April 2018, China retaliated by imposing tariffs of up to 25% on 128 American products, including soybeans, aircraft, and cars. 2024, the Biden administration kept the tariffs in place and added more levies on Chinese electric vehicles and solar panels. Trump's 2024 presidential campaign proposed a 60% tariff on Chinese goods. September 2024, the U.S. increased average tariffs on Chinese imports from 19.3% to 27%. January 2025, further tariff increases were predicted, which could cause a 0.2% drop in global trade. 2. The tech race, the semiconductor war. The U.S. and China are locked in a high-stakes competition for computing power and technological superiority centered on the semiconductor industry, which is the backbone of modern technology. The U.S. has taken several strong measures to limit China's chip-making capabilities, including export controls, sanctions, and investment bans. In 2018 and 2019, the Trump administration added Chinese technology companies like Huawei and ZTE to the Commerce Department's entity list, which banned American companies from doing business with them without a license. In September 2025, the Trump administration revoked Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company's TSMC authorization to ship U.S.-made chip-making equipment to China, which gives Washington more oversight on the equipment being supplied to China. Additionally, the U.S. has introduced laws like the CHIPS Act to strengthen its domestic industry and reduce its dependence on China and Taiwan for semiconductor supply. China has also responded with retaliatory actions. It has accelerated its efforts to become self-sufficient in the semiconductor industry and plans to triple its production of AI processors next year. Furthermore, China has imposed export controls on several rare earth minerals, which are crucial for electronics and other industries. A deeper look. The weaponization of economics. The trade war is not just an economic competition, it is a battle where both sides are using economic interdependence as a weapon for national security. The U.S. imposes sanctions on Chinese companies that may pose a national security threat, and also ensures that China cannot access advanced technology. Similarly, China restricts the export of rare earth minerals that are vital for the American technology industry. This is a clear strategic move by both nations to use their economic power to restrict each other, going beyond traditional trade. Rules. This growing tension has also led to a global reshaping of supply chains. The increasing tariffs and restrictions have forced companies to move their supply chains away from China to other countries like Vietnam, Mexico, and India. This process is